The old house stood silently, shrouded in an eerie calm. Sudha and Veeres, a young couple, stepped into their new home. The air was thick with the scent of dust and time. Excitement bubbled inside Sudha as she surveyed the rooms, but in the courtyard, a chill settled as she saw it, the well.
It's ancient,
Veeres said, noticing her gaze. His voice broke the silence.
but the water is still pure. The villagers say so.
He tried to sound reassuring. Sudha moved closer, drawn by an unknown force. The well was deep, its darkness unfathomable. A shiver ran down her spine.
Come, let's finish unpacking.
He gently steered her away. Sudha followed, but her gaze kept returning to the well. Its presence was inescapable. It felt like a silent sentinel, guarding secrets as old as time itself. Days turned into weeks. The house felt less strange now, filled with their laughter and conversations, yet the well remained an enigma. Sudha found herself drawn to it, especially during the quiet hours. She would sit by its edge, listening intently. Sometimes she imagined hearing whispers carried on the wind. One afternoon, Veeres found her there. He looked at her with concern etched on his face.
Sudha, you seem captivated by the well.
He said, his voice low. Sudha looked up, startled.
It's just, there's something about it.
She murmured, her eyes returning to the dark depths. Veeres sighed.
The villagers have a story about it. They say a young woman, driven to despair, drowned herself in this very well.
Sudha's breath hitched.
Why?
She asked, her voice barely audible. Veeres shrugged, his eyes filled with a strange sadness.
No one knows for sure, but they say her cries can still be heard at night. A mournful lament for a life cut short.
That night, sleep eluded Sudha. Veeres' words echoed in her mind, weaving a tapestry of fear and curiosity. A full moon cast an eerie glow upon the courtyard, its light falling directly on the well. Drawn by an invisible force, Sudha found herself by its side. The night was still, the air heavy with anticipation. Suddenly, a faint sound reached her ears, a soft sob carried on the wind. It seemed to be coming from the well. Sudha leaned closer, her heart pounding in her chest. The sobbing grew louder, morphing into a gut-wrenching wail. Terror gripped her, yet she couldn't tear herself away. Then she saw him. A figure stood by the well, shrouded in shadows. It was Veeres, but something was different. His stance, his silhouette, it all seemed off. Sudha opened her mouth to call out, but no sound escaped her lips. She watched, frozen in fear, as the figure turned towards the well and slowly vanished into its depths. The next morning, Sudha awoke with a gasp. The events of the previous night played out in her mind like a horror film. She rushed to Veeres, her heart pounding. He was still asleep, his face peaceful. Relief washed over her. It was just a nightmare, she told herself, just a figment of her imagination. As the day wore on, Sudha couldn't shake off the unease that had settled upon her. She decided to seek out Ajji, an old woman known for her wisdom and knowledge of the village's past. Ajji listened patiently as Sudha recounted her experience, her eyes filled with a knowing sadness.
The well, it plays tricks on the mind.
Ajji finally said, her voice frail but firm.
But I saw Veeres. He was there by the well.
Ajji shook her head slowly.
The well feeds on fear, child. It shows you what you fear most, preying on your vulnerabilities.
Her words, though meant to be comforting, did little to ease Sudha's growing anxiety.
You must be careful. The well claims those who are most vulnerable.
When Sudha told Veeres about her nightmare and Ajji's warning, he dismissed it as nothing more than stress.
You're letting your imagination run wild, he said, trying to sound reassuring.
But even he couldn't ignore the fear that flickered in Sudha's eyes. That night, Veeres slept soundly, oblivious to Sudha's restless tossing and turning. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw the ghostly figure by the well. The memory was vivid, chillingly real. As dawn approached, exhaustion finally claimed her. When she woke, Veeres was already up, preparing breakfast. He seemed his usual, cheerful self, making no mention of the previous night's events.
How did you sleep? He asked, turning to her with a smile.
Sudha hesitated, unsure how to respond.
I slept fine, she finally said, forcing a smile.
Veeres didn't seem to notice the tremor in her voice. He continued with his chores, leaving Sudha to grapple with the unsettling events of the night before. Driven by a need for answers, Sudha sought out Ajji once more. The old woman listened intently as Sudha described the ghostly figure she had seen. A shadow crossed Ajji's wrinkled face.
You said the figure vanished into the well, she asked, her voice barely a whisper.
Sudha nodded, chills running down her spine. Ajji sighed, her eyes filled with a deep sadness.
The well it doesn't forget, she said, her voice raspy with age. It holds on to the sorrows of the past, replaying them for those who dare to look too closely.
Sudha's heart pounded in her chest.
What do you mean? She asked, her voice trembling.
Ajji took a deep breath as if gathering her strength.
Many years ago, she began, her voice heavy with sorrow. A young woman named Sudha lived in this very village.
Sudha gasped, her own name echoing in the silence of the room. Ajji continued, her gaze fixed on a distant point in the past.
She was beautiful and kind, but her life was filled with sorrow.
Ajji's voice, though frail, held Sudha captive. She listened intently as the old woman continued the tale.
Sudha was deeply in love with a young man, Ajji said, her voice thick with emotion. But their love was forbidden. Their families were rivals.
The story unfolded like a forgotten melody, tinged with tragedy.
One night, driven to despair, Sudha took her own life, Ajji said, her voice cracking. She chose the well as her final resting place.
Sudha listened, her blood running cold. The well wasn't just a source of water, it was a tomb.
Her lover, heartbroken, vowed to join her in death. He promised to follow her into the depths of the well.
Sudha's breath hitched. The ghostly figure she had seen. Could it be?
Ajji's eyes, filled with a lifetime of memories, met Sudha's. He kept his promise, Ajji said, her voice heavy with sorrow. He went to the well that very night and took his own life, joining his beloved in the watery abyss.
A heavy silence fell upon the room. The weight of the story of the love and loss it carried pressed down on Sudha.
The villagers say their souls are still trapped within the well, Ajji whispered, her gaze distant, forever bound by their love and their tragic fate.
Sudha felt a shiver run down her spine. The well, she realized, wasn't just a place of sorrow. It was a conduit, a bridge between the world of the living and the realm of the dead.
The well remembers, Ajji said, her voice barely audible. It remembers the promise made, the love lost, and the lives taken too soon.
Sudha looked at Ajji, her mind racing. What about the figure I saw? She asked, her voice trembling. The one that looked like Veeres?
Ajji reached out and took Sudha's hand, her touch surprisingly strong despite her frail appearance.
The well shows you what it wants you to see, she said, her voice filled with a quiet intensity. It feeds off your terror.
Sudha's mind flashed back to the ghostly figure by the well.
It showed you your greatest fear, Ajji continued. The well had shown her a glimpse of a possible future. You must leave this village, Ajji said, her voice firm. You are not safe here.
Sudha's heart sank. Ajji's warning rang in her ears, carrying the weight of truth. The decision to leave was not an easy one. Veeres, though skeptical at first, couldn't ignore the fear that had taken root in Sudha's eyes. He had seen the change in her, the way the well had cast a shadow over her once vibrant spirit. And so they packed their belongings, their laughter replaced by a heavy silence.
As they prepared to leave, Sudha took one last look at the well. The sun was setting, casting long, eerie shadows across the courtyard. It stood there, silent and imposing, a constant reminder of the tragedy it held within its depths. She could almost hear the whispers of the past, the echoes of a love story forever frozen in time.
With a heavy heart, Sudha turned away. As they drove away from the village, the setting sun casting long shadows behind them, Sudha couldn't shake off the feeling that they were leaving a part of themselves behind. The well, she knew, would forever hold a piece of their hearts, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lay hidden beneath the surface of their world. The village faded into the distance, but the memory of the well lingered. Sudha and Veeres moved on with their lives, but the chilling tale of the well and the lovers it claimed remained etched in their minds. They carried the story with them, a constant reminder of the power of love, the depths of despair and the thin veil that separates the world of the living from the realm of the dead. And so the legend of the well lived on, passed down from generation to generation, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones. A reminder that some places hold secrets best left undisturbed, and some stories are meant to be heard but never experienced. The well, a silent sentinel in the heart of the village, stood as a testament to the enduring power of love, loss, and the mysteries that lie hidden beneath the surface of our world.